Ladies and gentlemen, for our friends in Europe, good morning. For our friends in Taiwan, good afternoon. Welcome to the Netherlands-Taiwan Semiconductor Dialogue, Semiconductor Sustainability. While the world is still busy coping with the chip shortage, going out of its way to find all possible solutions, we're also doing our best to pursue ESG, sustainability, and also net zero. So how exactly can we make Taiwan's semiconductor industry greener and more sustainable, and what are some of the potential areas that might be good for more collaboration between the Netherlands and Taiwan? And that is what we're going to talk about today. All right, and to begin, we'd like to firstly invite all of our VIP speakers who are going to give us the opening remarks, and all the speakers for the webinar today. Please turn your camera on. We'd like to start today's webinar with a group photo, okay? Please let us see your faces on the big screen. Yes, okay. We have Terry on the screen right now. Yes, we have Foco, and also Director General Zhenghua Liu. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, and we also have our speaker Daniel, and also the Deputy Representative Renee Biraput. Okay, everybody, please look at the cameras right now. Okay, a big smile. 3, 2, 1. All right. I don't. Yes. Okay. We would also like to see Daniel in a group photo too. All right. Let's do one more. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. You can turn your camera off for now. All right, and now for the opening remarks, we'd like to firstly hear from the organizer. Please welcome the Deputy Representative of Netherlands Office, Taipei. Let's welcome Mr. Renee Biraput.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon. I'm Renee Biraput, Deputy Representative of the Netherlands Office, Taipei. As main organizer of today's event, it's my honor to welcome you to the 5th edition of the Netherlands-Taiwan Semiconductor Dialogue. And the theme for today is Semiconductor Sustainability. The Netherlands-Taiwan Semiconductor Dialogue is an initiative by our office in 2021 to explore potential collaboration in the various fields of semiconductor technologies. In this series of webinars, topics are identified on the basis of their relevance, their strengths and potential synergy for the respective semiconductor sector stakeholders. Thus far, topics like compound semiconductors, advanced packaging, RF technologies have been discussed during previous webinars. As you know, Taiwan's semiconductor sector made international headlines for its robust performance during the global chip shortages during the pandemic. Hence, Taiwan's semiconductor sector enjoyed a strong growth in 2021 with its increasing global market share. And in terms of trade, in 2021, the Netherlands was one of the major European exporters to Taiwan, and as you might have guessed, one of the key export items is the EUV machine of ASML, which allowed TSMC and many others here to maintain its dominant position in advanced chip manufacturing. For the Netherlands, Taiwan is not only a trading partner. With a history dating back almost 400 years, our office has also been active in areas such as culture, offshore wind, innovation, energy, and water. Our goal is not just facilitating bilateral economic growth, but also sharing expertise to support Taiwan in solving various problems. We understand that Taiwan's semiconductor sector is facing big challenges relating to water supply, energy supply, resource circulation, and a high CO2 footprint. For this reason, we have selected Semiconductor Sustainability as the focus theme for 2022. Moreover, this focus will allow us to help our Taiwanese partners in achieving the net zero 2050 target announced by the Taiwanese government earlier this year. Our office has commissioned 2 external researchers on Taiwan's semiconductor sustainability, and today I'm pleased to share their findings and the report with you. Here with us today are the authors of the report. The first speaker, Mr. Daniel Nijstad, who will present on the challenges faced by the semiconductor industry. And the second speaker will be Mr. Peter van Arkel, who will present the Dutch solutions for a more sustainable sector in semicon. And I sincerely hope that this event will mark a new chapter of collaboration in building a more sustainable common future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Renee Bierepot. Thank you so much. All right, next we are going into the Netherlands. Our speaker is online right now, and just like Renee just said, today's webinar is a great platform for sharing expertise and those opportunities. So next, we'd like to hear from Mr. Foko Wijselaar, Director General for Enterprise and Innovation, Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy. So the time is yours, Mr. Wijselaar.
Thank you, and good morning in Taiwan, or good afternoon in Taiwan, and good morning here in the Netherlands to all you present. My name is Foko Wijselaar, Director General at the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy, and it's my pleasure to participate in the first event of 2022 of the Netherlands-Taiwan Semiconductor Dialogue, an effort by the Netherlands Office Taipei for synergy in key semiconductor areas. Last year, the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy conducted a research in the Netherlands semiconductor sector. From the report, we see strong links and potentials for Taiwan. For example, Taiwan is world's #1 in semiconductor foundry and leader in advanced manufacturing processes, largely contributed by ASML, the Dutch lithography machines, and particularly the EUV. Taiwan is also #1 in IC testing and packaging, which is utilizing the Dutch equipment from ASM International, BESI, and a range of SME equipment and component suppliers. So we identified the unique niches of the Dutch semiconductor sector, like IC design for radio frequency, integrated photonics, and compound material. From these findings, the Netherlands Office Taipei organized 3 webinar sessions on compound semiconductor advanced packaging and RF for support companies in exploring synergy. In February this year, the European Commission launched the European Chips Act, a multi-billion euro attempt to ensure the supply chain, avert shortages of semiconductors in the future, and to promote investment into the industry. In April this year, the Dutch government announced the second round decision National Growth Fund investment of 5 billion, with an extra 1.3 billion in reserve, in a total of 28 projects aimed at achieving sustainable growth in the Netherlands. These activities will further stimulate the development of the semiconductor sectors. So both from the side of what we see as niches which fit to the Taiwanese semiconductor industry, and from the policy perspective and the authorities' willingness to invest and put the money where the mouth is, I would say there are ample opportunities for cooperation. However, we are not just pursuing economic development, but most importantly, a joint sustainable future. Similar to Taiwan government's Net Zero 2050 strategy, the Netherlands is committed to achieve 95% carbon reduction compared to 1990 by 2050. I understand that Taiwan's semiconductor sector has a large carbon footprint and is facing challenges in water supply, green energy transformation, resource circulation. And again, also here, I believe the Netherlands has much to offer in these areas. Today, we are looking beyond the semiconductor technologies and focusing on helping the semiconductor sector to become more sustainable. I foresee many joint opportunities in the future, as we have already seen in the semiconductor sector itself. Thank you, and I hope we have a very pleasant and very fruitful webinar today.
Thank you so much to Director General Wijselaar. Thank you, Mr. Wijselaar, and your ministry for promoting the synergy and also collaboration for the semiconductor sector for the Netherlands and also Taiwan. Thank you once again. And next, we'd like to invite the Director General of the Industrial Development Bureau of Taiwan, Mr. Zhenghua Liu, to also share a few words with us today. 接下来我们有请工业局吕正华局长。
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rini Pereput from the DGG from Representative Nissan Office Taipei, and also Feiko Vijus Sela DG from Ministry of Economic Affairs and the Climate Policy. Good afternoon. And the Nissan and the Taiwan semiconductor industry have a long history of cooperation and partnership, and to support transit Taiwan from a more sustainable semiconductor sector. We thank you all for support today's dialogue. And my colleague told us that today's speech uses Mandarin, so next I will change it to the Mandarin mode, then use a translator. So 台湾半导体产业经发展40多年，已经有很不错的上下游垂直分工的方式，尤其在晶圆代工跟 IC 测试、封装等等，在全世界都是世界第一。IC 设计也名列全世界第2，在全球供应链扮演不可或缺的角色。那台湾作为全球高科技创新研发的重要伙伴，在许多产品技术当中，也可以看到国际品牌运用我们半导体产品的技术来进行创新应用。Please translate.
Yes, Taiwan has been developing semiconductors for more than 4 decades, and we have a very special, vertically highly integrated local supply chain here in Taiwan. The upstream and also the downstream have been working very closely, and Taiwan is #1 when it comes to IC foundries and also testing and packaging, and #2 when it comes to IC design. And that Taiwan really plays a vital role in the global supply chain. And we also see a lot of international big companies will go to Taiwan's products and also solutions when they want to innovate and take their products to the next level.
近年来，因为气候变迁的加剧，也伴随着半导体的高阶制程技术也同时持续的提升。那生产过程中所使用的水电还有能源会随着制程的复杂度而增加，那也让全球还有台湾半导体的产业面临资源循环还有废弃物管理等永续发展的挑战。那台湾的半导体产业也积极响应 ESG， 也致力达到近零碳排的目标，所以包括台积电、日月光等知名的半导体厂商也都长期在这上面有所投入，并且被选为道琼永续指数的模范标杆。那经济部也持续跟产业界还有学员单位来携手合作，来推动台湾半导体产业走向循环经济，为环境永续贡献心力。
Yes, we know that semiconductor manufacturing processes are getting more and more complicated and advanced. That's why more water and electricity will be needed in this process. So that also presents more challenges for us, such as resources recycling and also waste management. And those are the problems that we really have to solve. And so that's why Taiwan's semiconductor community is working very hard to incorporate ESG and also sustainability goals in its development process. And we have seen some very impressive achievements so far, such as TSMC and also ASE have been long listed on the Dow Jones Sustainability Indices, DJSI, and my bureau under the Ministry of Economic Affairs has also been sparing no efforts in working with the semiconductor industry and also the academia to promote circular economy and also environmental protection.
荷兰半导体产业的优势包括设备还有相关的元件开发，也在落实永续发展方面有多年的经验。那台湾的强项则是在半导体制造、封测也完整的一个产业聚落，所以台湾跟荷兰双边的强项可以相互兼容、相辅相成，也有助于建立长期的半导体先进制程伙伴关系。另外，从循环经济的角度来看，艾斯摩荷兰的艾斯摩尔公司也和台积电还有其他晶圆代工厂在半导体的设备供应链也有很密切的合作。那尤其 ASML 在台湾设有智慧制造中心，透过微影机台的生产维修以及再制造，我们在半导体设备的一些合作也可以达到循环经济的目标。
I think the Netherlands and also Taiwan really complement with each other when it comes to semiconductors. That the Netherlands is very good for its equipment and also devices, and also a leader in developing sustainable solutions. And Taiwan is very good in chip manufacturing, testing, packaging, and also has a very comprehensive industrial cluster here in Taiwan. So I believe that the Netherlands and Taiwan can be each other's best partner for the development of advanced manufacturing. And also, we know that the Dutch giant in the industry, ASML, really is a very important partner for TSMC and other foundries in Taiwan. And it has a smart manufacturing center here in Taiwan. And through ASML's EUVs, most advanced machines that really allow Taiwan's companies and also equipment to be recycled and also reused repeatedly, and also really extend the life cycles of systems and also equipment for Taiwan's companies.
我们透过今天这样的会议，希望可以共同探索半导体产业面临在水资源、能源使用、资源循环还有废弃物管理的永续挑战，来寻求解决方案，并且强化台核在双边半导体产业的合作伙伴关系。
Through the webinar today, we will talk about a great variety of different issues, such as water resources, such as the use of energy, recycling of resources, and also waste management. And hopefully through the webinar today, we can once again consolidate the partnership and also relationship between Taiwan and the Netherlands.
那近期因为疫情比较辛苦，所以譬如说4月底，其实我们长期也跟荷兰在台办事处有很好的关系。那它有一个活动虽然取消，不过还是把荷兰的郁金香还有荷兰的巧克力送到我办公室。所以呢，其实我们在长期的这些合作上面呢，要特别谢谢荷兰在台办事处对于台湾产业的一个关心。那本人也仅代表经济部工业局。感谢来自荷兰的嘉宾，国际半导体产业协会 Semi 台湾，还有本次参与会议的台核半导体产业的朋友们，希望能够今天的活动都能够满载而归。
My bureau always has a very good relationship and a very good friendship with the Netherlands office in Taipei. And even though one event at the end of April due to the pandemic has been canceled, but I here would like to take this opportunity to thank the Netherlands office for still sending the tulips and also chocolate to my office. Thank you so much. We enjoy that a lot. And also, I would like to thank all the speakers from the Netherlands and also the distinguished guests from Semi-Taiwan and all the participants representing the industry, semiconductor industries of the Netherlands and also Taiwan. Thank you so much for your participation, and I hope today's event every success. Thank you. 好，非常谢谢局长。
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Director General Zhenghua Liu of Industrial Development Bureau, MOEA Taiwan. And next, we'd like to invite Terry Cao, SEMI's Global Chief Marketing Officer and President of SEMI Taiwan. Over to you, Terry.
Okay, good morning in the Netherlands and also good afternoon in Taiwan. Mr. Rene Beperpo and Fakko Vixela and Director General Lu and all the friends and distinguished speaker, good morning and good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the invitation to include SEMI to be part of the group to facilitate the very meaningful sustainability dialogue between Taiwan and the Netherlands. Recently, in the beginning of this year, we as a global industry association, we just conduct a global member survey. We asked about what is the top priority among all the industry executives. Therefore, on top of that, which is the first one is the chip shortage, second one is the talent issue, and the third thing is the geopolitical problem. Last but not the least is sustainability. So we can know that sustainability is critical for the global semiconductor industry, especially in manufacturing. As we all know that semiconductor is a global industry, So there's no one single region can do it by itself. At the same time, in terms of the sustainability, no single region can exclude the responsibility about the net zero or carbon reduction responsibility. So I think from the history, Taiwan and the Netherlands are always complementary from like manufacturing and with the equipment and the component. But at the same time, Netherlands also very renowned for the sustainability solution. So I believe by this webinar and the bilateral dialogue, we definitely can find out the win-win partnership and the solution to help the Taiwan semiconductor industry, especially in manufacturing industry, to alleviate the burden and to find out the solution for the carbon reduction initiative. At the same time, Taiwan is the largest semiconductor equipment material consumption region. So I believe for all the Netherlands solution provider, if you have the good solution, definitely Taiwan is the destination for you to explore and enjoy the big business opportunity. So to conclude, SEMI as a global industry association, we are more than happier to partner with the both government to facilitate the cross-region dialogue and the conversation for the prosperity and health for the semiconductor industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Terry Tao, President of Semi-Taiwan. And lastly, for the opening remarks, we'd like to hear from one of the pioneers for Taiwan's ESG, sustainability, and net zero campaigns. Let's welcome Eugene Jian, President of Taiwan Institute for Sustainable Energy. Dr. Jian. Dr. Jian is not online with us right now, but he has a pre-recorded message for us. So let's hear it.
Deputy Representative of Netherlands Office Taipei, Mr. René Verreport, Director General of the Netherlands Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy, Mr. Volko Wessler, Director General of the Industrial Development Bureau Taiwan, Mr. Li Zhenghua, Global Chief Marketing Officer and the President of the SEMI, Mr. Terry Tao, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon in Taiwan and good morning in Netherlands. Welcome you all to participate today's Netherlands-Taiwan Semiconductor Dialogue webinar through the online video. This conference is hosted by the Netherlands Office Taipei, High-Tech Netherlands, SEMI, and TICE. Together, we pay close attention to the critical developments and exchange experience in semiconductor industry development across Taiwan and the Netherlands. Global supply chain is significantly disrupted under COVID-19 lockdown period. It became even worse with energy shortage under the Russian-Ukraine war. Following the COP26, IPCC has published AR6 report to remind all countries to strengthen their determination in 2050 net zero emissions. To be noticed, Taiwan semiconductor industry has excellent performance in energy water saving. For example, TSMC has saved more than 3 million metric tons of water annually and reduced greenhouse gas emission per unit of product by 17%. LG Technology Holding Company's Kaohsiung plant has saved 20 million tons of water in past 6 years and saved more than 7 million kilowatt hour of electricity per year. Only 1/3 of water used is tap water, of which 2/3 is recycled water. which can be considered one of the paradigms among the Taiwan semiconductor industry. Countries around the world unanimously fortify their strengths in pursuit of 2050 net zero target, also called the Race to Zero campaign. This has propelled many industries to commit themselves to net zero transformations, especially semiconductor industry, which consumes large amounts of energy, water, and chemicals. The technology sector powered by the semiconductor industry should lead the way to formulate a better solution for this campaign based on sustainability. Through sharing challenges and opportunities faced by the semiconductor industry in Taiwan and the provision of experience and solutions for Netherlands in this webinar, we hope to ushering the semiconductor supply chain in both Netherlands and Taiwan into sustainable paths. On behalf of the TICE, I would like to thank organizers and sponsors for facilitating dialogue between experts and stakeholders in Taiwan, Netherlands, and the whole world for excellent experience and the cases in semiconductor industry. I hope the semiconductor industry supply chain as a whole can therefore benefit from this event. Once again, thank you all for the attendance and the participation.
Thank you very much to Dr. Jen. Concluding, all of our VIP guests just said that achieving SDGs and also semiconductor sustainability can't be done alone. So that's why we are here today, looking for more partnership and also more collaboration. All right, next we are going to have 3 presentations, each for 10 minutes. And then after that, we will have about 30 minutes for panel discussions and also Q&A. You are more than welcome to raise questions anytime during the webinar today. And if we have time, at the very end, we will answer your questions. So feel free to raise any questions. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the first presentation today. And our first speaker is Mr. Daniel Nistat. He's going to share with us more details of the report and the topic, Taiwan's semiconductor industry goes green. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. And welcome, everybody. I only have 10 minutes to do this presentation. And frankly speaking, I find the semiconductor industry to be so fascinating that I offered to talk for 3 hours. Now, I was rejected. They said I cannot talk for 3 hours. But I did squeeze a few extra minutes out, and I hope I make that worth your while. So unfortunately, I have to start with a disclaimer because I work for an investment company. Triarent Investments is a private investment firm. Please, nothing that I say should you take as any kind of investment advice. And everything I say is my own view and does not represent the views of Triarent Investments. So with that, I will move on. So when we started to look at the challenges for Taiwan semiconductor industry and to do this report, our group, Triarent Investments, it was myself and a colleague, we were very excited to work with the Netherlands Trade Office and also for Taiwan because both countries have such strong semiconductor industries. And so when we made the title, this is only part 1. Part 2 is going to be done by a Dutch colleague who is going to talk more about Dutch solutions. But for this part, I just want to be clear on a few things. Number one is Taiwan semiconductor industry goes green. This title, for the green part, it's very specific, and it means that the industry is seeking to reduce power consumption, is seeking to reduce its carbon footprint, is seeking to reduce water use and recycle water, and is seeking to reduce waste, and also to try to find alternatives to some of the chemicals. There are a lot of toxic chemicals and metals and other things used in semiconductor production that companies in Taiwan are working very hard to try and get rid of or to reduce or to find alternatives for. One of the major difficulties, of course, is that some of those, there's simply no alternative right now, and those are ongoing battles. But the other part of the title, and I want to make sure there's no mistake and there's no misnomer, to say that it goes green could sound like that the industry has not been green and is just now going green, and that's not true at all. It's been working on environmental issues for decades. And so I wanted to put this up very quickly and in the front because this is the S&P Global, who runs, as the IDB Director General mentioned earlier, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. S&P Global runs that, and also runs the sustainability, the yearly sustainability yearbook. The 2022 yearbook is already out. And as you can see, Taiwanese companies do very, very well. You've got ASE and you've got United Microelectronics. Both have gold class awards for 2022 with the scores of 92. And in the bronze class, you have TSMC and Nanya Technology. That's 4 Taiwanese companies in the top 4. And among the top 10, there's 2 more Taiwanese companies. And then you have Germany with 83, and you have ASML with an 80. So there's an awful lot of effort going into the ESG and to environmentalism in Taiwan among the companies that are working very hard here. So this is a very short speech. My outline is also very short. So the ESG leadership part is already pretty much done. Semiconductor manufacturing is a very dirty job. The companies here work very hard to make it as clean as they can. One of the things people have to keep in mind when you're looking at the semiconductor industry is when you see photographs, you're often seeing photographs of clean rooms and workers wearing a clean room uniform, and so that gives a bit of an impression that the industry is very clean. And of course, they have to be clean in order to make the chips, because even a tiny particle of dust will destroy a chip on a line. But it's an extremely power-intensive thing to do, and in fact, when we looked at it, the output of TSMC every year in terms of the power needed is just only slightly less than Volkswagen, which is the #1 automobile manufacturer in the world. So that's just an example of how power-intensive the industry is. It's also very thirsty. There's an awful lot of water used. It's purified. It's recycled and reused as often as it can be. And then there's a range of toxic waste. So the second part of the talk is the state of the ESG, the state of the effort in Taiwan right now. And that would cover some of the politics, the national effort, the industry effort, and the Taiwan semiconductor industry effort, as well as when I say the semiconductor industry, I do mean the supply chain and the collaboration within the supply chain. And then, of course, incentives for doing ESG work. And then we did come up with a budget. One of the things that we did find when we did this research was that a lot of companies had very specific budgets and that they were growing very fast for the amount of money they were putting into different points of ESG, whether it's research for improving production line equipment, or whether it was setting up new water filtration systems or other systems to be more environmentally friendly. And then the final one, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to, was going to be some notes on doing business in Taiwan. But again, we'll get to that if we can. So the state of the ESG effort in Taiwan right now, some of the challenges that companies are facing, one of them is really political. It's a national effort to move away from nuclear power and to natural gas and green energy, which is fine. It's a fine thing to do, and it's a good thing to do. It's being done very fast, and there's a bit of nervousness on whether or not this can be done in time, because in the middle of this transition, companies are still expanding tremendously. A lot of companies are building new fabs. I think at least there are several 100 billion NT fab pledges. Win Semiconductor, Nanya Technology, TSMC all have major new fab projects going on, and other companies are expanding as well. So as you're expanding, you need more energy, and at the same time, the nation is trying to make this transition, which can be very difficult. So what it means for companies is this tremendous need for them to reduce their energy use and to find new ways to make productions, in particular production, more energy efficient. Because as most people know, about 80% of all of the power used in a semiconductor fab is from the equipment. So a second major issue is water, because due to global warming or for whatever other reasons, there's been very dry weather, extremely dry weather over the past 20 years for Taiwan. And that's kind of a strange thing, because this is a subtropical island. And there's, in the years where it's not dry, it's very, very wet. And so one of the problems with Taiwan in terms of the terrain is there's a huge mountain range that goes down the back of the island. And so water, what happens is the rain comes down and it kind of washes pretty quickly into the ocean, unless it can be captured in reservoirs and things like that. But then the same forces that are taking the water into the ocean that quickly are also taking soil into those reservoirs, and it's difficult to keep the reservoirs clear of soil and sediment that builds up. So it kind of damages the amount of storage that's available. And in dry weather, in 2020 and 2021, semiconductor companies had to truck in water as one of the problems because they use so much in their production. And then, of course, the government was very, very, very quick and very proactive to try to build desalination plants and also to dig new wells to provide a little bit more water for the semiconductor manufacturers. So then the next part is the global supply chain, the global semiconductor industry, which also has its own goals and which works together. As I think most people are familiar with, the semiconductor industry is divided into different segments, and each segment, almost no company produces a chip by itself these days. Even a company like Intel, which does its own design and manufacturing, they do not make their own semiconductor equipment. They sometimes design equipment for themselves, or they design it, but in general, they're buying it from equipment vendors. And then there's EDA software makers who are for the design of the actual chips, and then the chip designers would make the chip design, and then they would pass it on to UMC or a company like that, that's the chip foundry, that would actually take that design and turn it into the chip die, and then they pass that on to the packaging and testing companies. So the industry itself is working very hard to be globally, to prevent global warming, to reduce its carbon footprint, and to be a better global citizen. So you have the industry incentives and industry works that's going on, and then you have the Taiwan supply chain incentives and things that are going on, because a lot of Taiwanese companies, they have their own supply chains, and they're more and more being proactive to ask their supply chain partners to do more for the environment, to be a little bit more energy efficient, to be a little bit more water efficient. And that's really a great thing for everything, for the entire ESG movement. So that's some of the challenges that are being faced, and that's some of the organizations behind those challenges. And then for the incentives, of course, for the political side, the national government, there are awards that are offered for strong ESG work. There are some subsidies that can be taken. There are some tax breaks. Another part is the supply chain partners. Some supply chain partners will pay more for more chip per unit, like the higher cost, in order to allow their supply chain partners to create a better or a more ESG or a more green factory. And then the island just means a lot of companies in Taiwan, they really believe that what they're doing is good for the island and for the fact that this is a very beautiful place. Their kids are going to live here, and many generations more are going to live here. And so the incentive is simply to keep Taiwan as green and beautiful as it can be. So one of the numbers that we came up with when we were doing this, let me just go through this in a very, I've got the pointer. The Taiwan semiconductor industry output last year, the value was about 140 billion euro, which was 4.1 trillion Taiwan dollars. And so the global semiconductor industry sales were about 556 billion dollars, or 527 billion euro. So Taiwan accounted for about 26.5% of that. And again, a lot of what's done in Taiwan is a piece of what's going on. So the foundry service, or the packaging and testing service, or the design part of it, so this is all moving through the supply chain. And those numbers are important to keep in mind, because then you have what the CapEx figures are. So they're spending an awful lot of money every year to build new factories, and they need a lot of new production line equipment. So any company that might be able to help the Taiwanese companies with energy efficiency, for example, it's good to know that they spent last year almost 50 billion euro, which was 2.1 trillion Taiwan dollars on production line equipment, because it gives you an idea of how big the market size is. And then in ESG spending in particular, now that was a good one as well, because it's almost 56 billion Taiwan dollars, or 1.8 billion euro. And of course, what we focused on was the manufacturers, because that was where a lot of the power intensive use is going. And that's not to say there's none in chip design, because MediaTek, of course, they operate their own data centers. So they do have some power needs, and they do have some ESG needs for things like that. But in general, the chip design companies don't have as heavy of a use, power use or water use as the manufacturers. And it was very interesting to look into this. And one of the key messages, I think, from these numbers are that there is money being spent, that there is plenty of money available for R&D and for other reasons, and that companies that are looking for opportunity, there's plenty of opportunity there. So some of the key takeaways we had from the report was that the Taiwan government will continue to ask companies to reduce their energy use. I'm not going to be able to go through all these because I'm probably over time already, and I apologize for that. But and that the energy costs will rise as the cheap supply of nuclear is phased out. Farmers will always be prioritized over industry when it comes to water and power. It's just a political reality in Taiwan. And then, of course, one of the things about the supply chain that we found very interesting is a lot of the supply chain partners, the chip design side of it, if we can just stick with a few, the chip design part of it, the profit margins are much higher than the manufacturing side of it. And so it's really, there's a real effort needed for the companies on the design side to pay a little bit more in return for a green supply chain. Because the way the industry works right now is that the manufacturers are asked to pass for certifications. So you have to have this environmental certification and that environmental certification. It's very similar to the quality control certifications that were done many years ago, and the ESG certifications came later. And that's okay. That's one way to do it. But at the end of the day, those companies will still turn around and say, but our cost per chip must be as low as possible. And what we found when we were talking to companies was that really Apple is the only company that is saying we're willing to pay more and we're willing to share more of those profits in order to make a green supply chain in Taiwan. And that's important because, like I said, if the chip design company has a 50% gross margin, for example, some of the testing and packaging companies, their gross margin is below 20%. So there's a big difference in the amount of profits that are left over to spend on things like ESG. And so that's just a keynote that came out of our report. On time? Okay. So then, when you're looking at opportunities for work that could be done in Taiwan, you know, there's plenty of opportunities in energy, including solar, wind, energy storage, energy savings. And this information all came from interviews with companies and going through companies' ESG reports or CSR reports. And so another part is green buildings or smart buildings, smart factories that companies are building. And that includes building materials, that companies are looking for new materials that can make their, either that deflect sunlight, for example, so that you're using less power for your air conditioning. And then also, of course, there's water filtration systems, air filtration systems, production equipment, carbon credit markets, and much, much more. So there's plenty of work to be done, and there's plenty of things that people, you know, opportunities for companies that are able to do business here, that would like to do business here. And then I think I only went over a little bit. I apologize for going over a little bit. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much to Daniel Nistat. No worries, you were only a couple of minutes over time, and we'll see if we can give you a 3-hour special session next time. Okay. Yeah, and you'll be back very soon. Okay. Thank you once again to Daniel, Vice President of Tri-Orient Investments. Okay. For the second presentation, let's say Taiwan's companies and also semiconductor industry would like to be greener, would like to be more sustainable. What is it that the Netherlands has to offer? And we would like to go to our second speaker, Peter van Arkel, Senior Consultant from Berenschot. And he's online right now. Yes? Over to you. Peter? Are you online with us right now? We cannot hear you or see you for this moment. Our second speaker would like to share with us some Dutch solutions for a sustainable Taiwanese semiconductor industry. It seems like we are still having our technical problems being sorted out for now. So if you have any questions after hearing what Daniel just said, or while you are listening to our second speaker and also the third speaker, feel free to leave your questions online. We have about 30 minutes QA and also panel discussion at the very end. of our webinar. So don't go anywhere before we finish the webinar today. So yes, we can see you right now, Peter. Okay, so once again, we'd like to welcome our second speaker, Peter van Arkel. The time is yours right now.
Good morning to everybody in Taiwan, and good morning to everybody in the Netherlands. Good afternoon to everybody in Taiwan. I'm Peter van Arkel. I work for Berenschot, a Dutch consultancy agency, where I help firms to collaborate in R&D, let's say innovation ecosystems, and I'm specialized in semiconductor industry and integrated photonics. I would like to thank the NLOT for the opportunity to present here the results of our research that we have done for them on the sustainable solutions for that the Netherlands can provide for the semiconductor industry in Taiwan. So the first part is the Netherlands is a major player in the global semiconductor industry when it comes to manufacturing equipment. Many of the companies have already been named today. Some of them are spin-offs from Freelabs. Others have been grown in the Netherlands based on the specialty we have here in these type of technologies. These large companies are supported by a large ecosystem of specialized service providers, subsystem providers, and component providers, so to say tier 1 or tier 2 suppliers of these systems. And they have a strong ecosystem on universities and research institutes that support them to make these developments. So these universities, we have the 3 technical universities in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, Delft, and in Twente, and they are specialized in electronics and high-tech systems. And these universities also transfer knowledge to research institutes in the Netherlands, which have specialities like lithography, like Arcanel, the packaging industry for electronics, but also high-tech systems and electronics design and electronic devices. So the Netherlands has a strong ecosystem, which is complete everything that is needed. So let's go over the boring stuff a little bit, just to answer your questions before you have them. Scope and research setup. So this research, we have looked at companies with a revenue of about less than $500 million, or they have a Dutch subsidiary here in the Netherlands. The only solutions that directly provide sustainability benefits, specifically for semiconductor industry, are included in this research. So there are no companies included that provide general green energy production or storage, or wastewater filtration and storage solutions. The research setup, we have done 5 interviews with experts in the Dutch semiconductor industry, and we've done a non-exhaustive desk research to see which solutions are available and can contribute. And we did an inquiry on concrete examples, which in the report can also be found in attachment B. And I would like to thank also the High-Tech NL Association for helping us sending out this inquiry. Going over the solutions that we have. So first go over the definitions. We have on the first column, so here you see the whole value chain that is involved in semiconductor manufacturing. So on the left side, there are clean rooms or fabs, and these clean room or fabs, this category is basically the buildings in which the production and manufacturing is done, or the facilities that are closely aligned with these clean rooms and factories. So this also includes water filtration systems or other utility services. Then we have this wafer equipment, also sometimes called the front end, which is existing basically of equipment manufacturers, specifically to produce the wafer before they get diced and go to the back end process. The third pillar is the process automation. So how can equipment be done automatically, or how can whole factories or whole supply chains be made automatically? Then we have the packaging, assembly, and test column. This involves basically all activities done in the back end, but also test equipment, for example, for front end processes. Hence, we don't call them front end in the second pillar. And then we have the end of life and recycling services and products that are developed in the Netherlands. I'll now very briefly go over some of these solutions just to give you an impression what can be done in the Netherlands by this ecosystem with small and medium enterprises, but also large enterprises, but not hitting this 500 million threshold. And if you have any questions or want to get into contact, of course, I'll direct you to the NLOT and start the conversation. Going over these solutions very briefly, since I only have 10 minutes. So in the Netherlands, we have companies who can provide a very efficient clean room control, HVAC systems, humidity control, which reduce energy use, but also can optimize the whole clean room when it comes to footprint or effective use of energy and water. And also different filtration techniques in the Netherlands, which can improve efficiency both of air and water or liquids. In the wafer equipment, the Netherlands has a strong base in plasma physics technologies, for example, for etching, surface preparation, etch, curing, and other steps in the front end. There are providers of highly accurate liquid and gas flow measurements and systems to reduce the waste and use of liquids and gases in the manufacturing processes, energy efficient furnaces, and high precision components and accurate motion control, which can be used in a variety of products, both in front end, back end, and automation equipment. On the process automation, the Netherlands offers automatic wafer handling equipment in a vacuum for very clean and efficient high throughput transport of wafers, for example, or dies, of course, and automation software and control, which is basically grown out of the need from the equipment manufacturers to optimize processes in the fabs. Then the back end, as you can see, these have a lot of companies. A lot of them use photonics or optical systems, which is one of the high specializations in the Netherlands. For example, optical systems and lasers for efficient dicing, reducing the waste and also the required energy for dicing processes. Inline microscopy equipment to find defaults and reduce waste, of course, in the end of the process, and efficient parallelized electronic testers. So the overhead of the machines can be lower and throughput can be much higher. There are also different sustainable assembly materials, for example, for solder bonding or connecting different parts of chips. And the Netherlands offers minimal fab services for demonstrators, so not a whole full fab with a complete clean room, which is, of course, a lot of energy has to be used. But these demonstrators can be made in a minimal fab, requiring less energy, of course, to make a demonstrator. And then finally, in the supply chain, the end of life and recycling. Of course, because of all the equipment manufacturers and component manufacturers in the Netherlands, there's also an ecosystem of services to handle these materials, basically. So many of them offer refurbishment programs, so used equipment can be reused again. There is active electronic waste recycling, reusable conditioned packaging, of course, if you want to send your equipment around the world without damages. This requires some high-tech solutions and also reusable packaging to reduce the waste flows and to prevent damaging, creating waste. So for this brief presentation, the conclusions, Dutch companies can provide many solutions to help the Taiwanese semiconductor industry to become more sustainable. And I see a strong link between the strong manufacturing and design capabilities in Taiwan and the Dutch equipment manufacturers, but also the services aligned with it that are required. So in the first column on how to optimize clean rooms and clean room processes, for example, and also wastewater treatment specifically to the semiconductor industry and recycling these materials. So the Taiwanese sustainability results might be able to benefit from R&D collaboration to use this ecosystem that is here in the Netherlands with high-tech solutions and link them to the equipment manufacturers of Taiwan to improve their sustainability performance of their equipment. And also collaboration between research institutes and universities here in the Netherlands. And as a second benefit, collaboration between the manufacturers and business parks together with the Dutch equipment manufacturers and also the clean room experts that we have here in the Netherlands that can provide solutions and help to make Taiwan a more sustainable place to manufacture semiconductor chips. And with these conclusions, I would also like to conclude this presentation, and I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to Peter van Arkel from Berenschot. Thank you so much for walking us through some very sophisticated solutions that the Dutch companies can provide in the semiconductor value chain, in different stages of the value chain. Thank you once again to Peter. Okay, and before we move on to the QA, we have one more presentation, and our next speaker is Mr. Rainier Richters, Strategic Consultant of Deeren's Advisory Group Clean Tech, and he's going to share with us some more of what Dutch companies can do. So do we have Rainier online right now?
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, but yes, you are right now on the screen, so the time is yours right now. Over to you. Hi, Rainier, to you.
Hello. Good afternoon, Taiwan, and good morning, the Netherlands. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm working at Deerens. Deerens is one of the leading engineering companies in the Netherlands. It's also mentioned by Peter in one of his last sheets, and I want to highlight some of our expertise and references that we have done here in the past and still doing here in the Netherlands regarding sustainable semiconductor manufacturing. Let me see if it's working. Yes. So the agenda a little bit about about science and technology trends we see, and then sustainable trends in the semiconductor industry. I keep it short because it's already mentioned in several speeches in advance. Then what we can do from a Deerens perspective to support you in getting greener and going to the net zero. And then I have some references. Because of the short time, I will keep it on a high level. But this Deerens is a leading engineering company in Europe. We have over 500 engineers working and doing a lot of projects, and we have offices mainly in Europe, but also we have corporations and also in the Far East. At the moment, we are also working on a project extension of ASML in Linkau, for example, also in Korea. So we are also an international. If you look, let's see, the market sectors we are working in, we have 5 different market sectors, and one of the most important is clean technology. And clean technology is all included. And you can see the different market sectors where we're working since over almost 100 years. So in electronics, life science, high-end food, R&D, nuclear, high containment, and new energies. All these is not possible without a contamination control. So it's very important. If you look to the trends, what we see as Deerens is that you see an overview of the miniaturization and also what we call the merging of the different technology and trends, what we see in the last year. So from the 60s and 80s, it's of the molecular assembly with life science, for example. And what you see in the coming years, it's merging together and in different sectors. So we have, for example, an organ on a chip, we have sustainable food, on quantum computers, and that's impacting also the facilities. The clean rooms getting bigger, but also the clean room have different requirements. They get stricter. The clean rooms are getting also bigger. So and without contamination control, it's almost impossible to support and accommodate these kind of new technologies. And of course, this has also have an impact on the facilities and the clean rooms. And the further miniaturization that comes with the price, and we also know that increasing or making the features smaller, it also includes and water usage. So this is a big challenge. Looking to the sustainable trends in semiconductors, a lot of already mentioned, but one of the key risk from if you look for the climate action failure risk, so what are the global risk on the impact on severity, and one of the major is climate action failure. So that's regarding energy consumption, carbon footprint, biodiversity, all that kind of things. That's very critical. And that we know there's an increasing chip demand, there's chip shortage. Now that leads to increasing to more production, and more production means and smaller feature sizes also has a trend and leads to greater energy consumption and larger things that we are facing in the coming years. But also, sorry, too quick. But also the availability of materials and raw materials, and also reduced reliability of our energy supply system, looking to the Green War, for example. And this has all a very big impact on business continuity. Our clients, they are very keen and are very, one of the most important drivers for them is business continuity. That's very important. So energy saving, energy reduction, water reuse, chemical reuse, reducing is one of the key items to be more self-supporting, and that you don't have to rely on external partners. So that's also very important. So what can we do at the moment? We have different services here in the Netherlands. And I think one of the key important things our clients are struggling in, because we also, if you look from strategic point of view, is that we support our clients in developing master planning. And it's very difficult to have a picture of a facility in 2030, even in 2015. If you look ahead 2 or 3 years in the semiconductors, it's very difficult already. And if you want to have an insight in 2030 or 2050, that's a big challenge. And a lot of our clients, and that's one of the key things that we are struggling with, is what will be the fab or the facility how does it look like in 2030 or 2050? That is one of our major years ahead, and that's very difficult. And also knowing that all kind of solutions like energy storage, energy production is also developing very quickly, and then you have to invest for many years, and it's always a big risk. Are you choosing the right solution? And maybe it's in 5 years, it's now the best solution, but in 10 years, it's not the best solution. So that's very difficult. So we are helping our clients on a strategic level, but also on a tactical level. And a tactical level that they have to think on master plans like energy reduction for the coming years, energy transition, phasing out existing systems, and also if you look from an operational point of view, also in the operation, reduce energy efficiency, reduce exhaust of the clean rooms, for example, to do it smarter. Is it necessary to have these kinds of quality levels? That kind of things that we can support tactical level and also on operational level. Also, we have some specific tools regarding ESG consultancy where we can support you, already mentioned, but also one of our strongest tools is also energy strategy. So we have a system that can monitor and also see what is happening in the facility, also what are the possibilities to reduce or to improve your energy efficiency. That we have developed certain tools already, for example, used by our colleagues in Italian. So we have a lot of tools that can support you on getting more efficient and more sustainable. So of course we have several certifications depending on the country we are working. And if you look for some solutions, and these are an overview of the projects we are working now, also for on sustainability. So, and then we talk about regarding energy efficiency is heat recovery, the use of heat pumps, heat recovery, but also reduction of for exhaust, the reuse of exhaust, hydrogen recovery and hydrogen reuse. That's coming from the processes that are we implementing. Also helium and neon, so the rare gases recovery systems we are now making a development and an execution at ASML, for example, but also water use recovery, reduction. At NXP, we have a lot of experience in reduce the water usage and increase the water reuse. Also in reduced emissions to greenhouse gases. All the things that we are in the Netherlands, for example, but also outside the Netherlands. And ASML and NXP, they are, for us, are key customers who want to drive and have a big ambition on receiving the sustainable targets. Here are some in some different industries, also for R&D and campus, and then one of our last big projects is Innocent. It's maybe a different application, a different sector, but that is the first CO2 neutral factory, and that's also where we support CO2 neutral, but also efficiency with cooling, freezing, and that kind of. So if you look to our capabilities, and we can support these companies in play. We have all the experience. We have an experienced team, also experience in a lot of the Taiwanese companies. So I think there's a lot of things we can do together. And looking forward to work together with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Rainier Richters for your very insightful talk. Thank you so much. Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, we are right now a little bit behind of our schedule, so I'm afraid that we have to cut our panel discussion a bit shorter. We are sorry about that. Okay, right now for the panel, and we will have all three of our previous speakers, Daniel, Peter, and Rainier, joining us. And also online with us, we have Terry Cao, Semi's Global Chief Marketing Officer and the President of Semi Taiwan, and Joy Liu, EHS Advisor from Taiwan Semiconductor Industry Association, TSIA, okay? Do we have Joy and also Terry online with us too? Because I haven't seen your faces. Yes, we can see you right now, Joy. And Terry? Are you with us? Yeah, and I would also like to remind all of you joining us online, feel free to raise any questions. We are collecting questions too. Okay, so we right now have all of our speakers online. Please make sure that you have your camera on too. Yes? Joy? And also Terry? Yeah. I actually already have a few questions here. Yes. Okay. Since we haven't heard too much from Terry and Joy too much today, so is it okay that maybe for each and every question I go to Joy and Terry first, and then I'll see if Daniel, Peta, and Rainier, if you have anything to add after that. Is it okay? Okay, sure. The first question here is regarding challenges. Of course, we have all mentioned about some challenges. For this one here, it says that challenges for the semiconductor sector in Taiwan is facing a lot of challenges in areas such as water, energy consumption, raw material input, and waste management and circulation. So we'd like to firstly go to Terry and also Joy. Can you tell us more on this, on some of the specific challenges under some of the categories that I just said, and also what are some of the main obstacles according to you? Terry?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think on top of that, of course, we talk about sustainability. There are so many kind of perspective surrounded. But on the top, I think the net zero and the carbon roadmap and how to do the carbon reduction methodology, that's the huge pressure, no matter from from government, society, and also from industry perspective. And you can see lots of the tech players, they're pursuing very high ambition to decarbonization. And also it's driven by the societal pressure. So the pressure is one by one, then the pressure from device maker cascade to the semiconductor supplier too. So according to the statistic, the carbon emission of the Taiwan electricity industry, electronic industry, was more than 32 million tons. But the semiconductor industry account for more than 43%. So definitely under the net zero carbon deduction, the big umbrella, how to explore the reduction for the electricity consumption, circular economy, and integrated resource. Definitely is not the traditional way. And I also want to highlight several like number for reference, like a large semiconductor fab. Their consumption for the electricity is around like a 100 megawatt per hour. Actually, this is for around 50K houses in general. And large single fab can use more than 9 million gallons of water per day. So those are the tremendous like issue and pressure. And like I mentioned in the earlier in the beginning, semiconductor is a global supply chain. So actually, most of the carbon reduction or sustainability is like a supply chain pressure. Taiwan is a hub of the global electronic manufacturing for the world. Actually, our device maker customer, for example, no matter the devices from the Apple or the service provider from Google, Amazon, whoever you name, those are the Taiwanese manufacturing supplier. They are heavily committed to the RE100, and some of them, they don't really have their own factory. So they cascade their pressure to the Taiwan semiconductor supply chain. Then you can know that there's no one can single out the pressure. So it's a really complex situation. So definitely it's need collective way to make it happen. Yeah. I will make the summary at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Maybe
Terry.
Joe.
And
Yeah.
yes. And Joy, what's your take on this one?
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, all audience and speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. As the previous speakers said, the IC manufacturing has done a lot of effort to reduce the energy usage, water usage, and the waste product. However, according to the static of the World Semiconductor Association (WSC) regarding the emission intensity of environmental indicator, in the past decade, and energy consumption per unit wafer area has increasing by 60%, and the water consumption increasing 10%, and the waste has increasing by 160%. So it's a huge challenge to the environmental. And if we want to pursue the ESG the targets, we have take more effort and cooperate with our tool supply, and to figure out how to reduce the environmental impact. So I think we have to do more in the future, because this challenge is not be solved by the short time. Even WSC also publish the indicator every year, but the trend is increasing. We cannot stop. It means in our process or manufacturing, using more and more usage, the energy and the water. So I hope maybe the tool supply can figure out more the clean technology to do that. Is my small opinions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Joy. And definitely a lot of challenges away for us, and a lot more to be done. And I think this second question is good for all 5 panelists. I would like to hear from all of you on this one. Some of you have already touched upon that. This next question is regarding what specific areas that you see opportunities for collaboration between the Netherlands and also Taiwan, and what is it that should be done to make this kind of collaboration and also partnership possible? I would also like to go to Terry and also Joy first for this one. Terry?
Sure. In general, I can say there are 5 areas we can collectively work together. The first one is a circular economy, kind of circular situation. And the second one is energy efficiency. The third one will be the water and the water and the waste treatment. And the fourth one is micro contamination. Last but not the least is the facility efficiency. And besides of that, I like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned about the pressure is like a supply chain, one cascade to the lower layer, kind of cascade to every supply chain. But on the other way is like if we think positively, this is really the collective work. For example, like the speaker mentioned earlier, for example, fabless, they use the data center, or even from the beginning when they designed the chip, the entire semiconductor chip design is more for the less power consumption. From fabless segment, they contribute. And also from the equipment tool maker, if the equipment from original, they already try their best to develop and create a power saving mechanism. Or for example, the other mechanism, for example, when they do the like a chemical waste, like a treatment, when they can develop the equipment from the beginning, they use different like the pipeline, so they don't mix together, so it's easier to do the recycling things. Not to mention the material, all the chemical material supplier, if they can design it from the mindset, the day one, they're thinking about this material should be recycling. So the entire supply chain, they all collected to contribute. So I think that is very important for the entire industry supply chain segment. Everyone can contribute from their expertise. So in that kind of scenario, definitely for Netherlands partner like all of you today, no matter from equipment, component, or from the material design, from the beginning, you can really contribute. Not to mention all the Netherlands also very famous. Lots of the supplier for all the other sustainable solution. So there can be also add on for the Taiwan semiconductor supply chain. So that is my comment. Yeah.
Yeah, Joy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yes, I totally agree with Terry said. How to cooperate with the supply company to design a clean energy or more friendly environmental tools is very important. As you may know, the WCC said the Resource Conservation Working Group, we TSI collect all the association, environmental and the ESG data. And we also want to invite the expertise or the tool equipment maker join us how to design the more efficiency, energy efficiency facility is more important. And we also ask this tool supply can follow the SEMI S23 or some standard or the clean product guideline is very important. As you may know, some member also join the tool design or maker process and share their experience how to make a more the friendly the tools. So it's very important. I believe that if we can cooperate with the Netherlands tool makers supply and join our member usage, it's a good method and to reduce the energy usage is my opinion.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a follow-up here. Are there already any programs in place supporting this kind of sustainability collaboration, Terry? Are there already any like
Sure.
programs or platforms?
Sure. Yeah. I think Joy just helped me to advocate that. Actually, from a tool maker perspective, semi collectively with all the equipment supplier and also device maker input, actually we build a lot of the semi standard, which is focused on the energy saving and also regarding the sustainability kind of the industry global roadmap. So that is the area we try to help and contribute. And the semi-globally, we also build up the sustainability advisory committee. We just feel we have very strong feeling about that. This is definitely collective work. No one can single out. So So that's why we built up the Sustainability Global Advisory Council to also help the industry to illustrate the roadmap for the sustainability. And of course, last but not the least, besides of the standard and also the advisory committee for the roadmap, we want to also to invite all the friends in Netherlands during the Semicon Taiwan in September. Actually, we have the big area pavilion, not only for the Netherlands pavilion, but we do have the sustainability pavilion since a couple of years ago. So we try to have the platform to help all the best first tier of the solution provider. You can really contribute and help the Taiwan semiconductor industry in terms of the sustainability. So there will be also the other platform. We are looking forward to with the support or the guidance from the Netherlands office in Taipei. We can bring all the solution provider at that event to do the good interaction.
Yes, thank you very much. So any particular areas good for the Netherlands and Taiwan to work together that seem to have a lot of promises, a lot of opportunities, and worth investing? Daniel?
Well, obviously, one of the great strengths
Yes,
one of the
it's
great
on.
strengths of the Dutch semiconductor industry is production line equipment. I mean, that's something that packaging and testing and of course ASML with EUV, not just EUV, they have the DUV machines. They do an awful lot of production line equipment. So that's an area. I mean, I actually agree with everything that Terry said and that Joey said with in the previous answers. There's really an awful lot of collaboration that needs to be done because nobody's creating things on their own. It's all done in concert with other companies that are working in this industry. And I hope this isn't too much off topic, but it just struck me that there was one very specific thing companies asked for, which was chip testing companies in Taiwan complained that the testing equipment was too high power. It used way too much power, and they were seeking a solution for that. But the problem with that is there are about 30 or 40 packaging and testing companies in Taiwan, so maybe ASE is big enough to really go to production line equipment companies and say, hey, this is what we want, or we're not going to buy. They definitely are big enough for that, but the rest of the industry is much smaller. So combining them together to work with a company and their budgets for their production line equipment is one way to look at that. But what's interesting is TSMC already has this ongoing effort, and they did what was called a intelligent compressed dry airflow control system for their testing equipment. And that's something that will reduce power use and the use of compressed dry air. And what struck me about that was you have a lot of companies that are working on their own on solutions like this. And how I actually don't even understand, maybe Terry or somebody else could say, is there any way of sharing that? And I definitely don't want to put any pressure on TSMC to share things like that, because that is a paid for engineering difficult thing to do. But with all these independent little efforts going on with big companies all over the world, I'm just curious, when it comes to ESG, I think that's very important to everybody, and what kind of efforts is available for those companies to bring those things to the rest of the industry and not just for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much. Peter, any comment?
Thank you. So I also fully agree with the previous speakers. And for building this relation and getting to sharing maybe of this knowledge, right? I usually distinguish between 3 levels. So you have this knowing what is there. If we are talking about starting collaborations, for example, then have to know, okay, who is there, who can I collaborate with? That can be done by making reports, databases, well, something I tried to share today. But that's only first level, right? You don't have anything implemented. You haven't made any impact. So then it's going to understand, what do they actually do? This can be done by trade fairs, as Terry already mentioned before, right? Getting into contact with other people, going into a discussion about certain topics. So excursions or company visits, matchmaking events, and then you understand the other parties, and you can understand where they are and where they can help you. And then as a third layer is getting to trust. I think that is the most important part, like trusting the other partner. And that is a very difficult step to going to know each other, to actually doing something together. That is what is building trust. And as Daniel already mentioned, this can be done by looking at how can we jointly solve this challenge with multiple companies bringing in the needs from Taiwan to the needs to the solutions in the Netherlands that can possibly provide parts of the solution. For example, by a road mapping activity or a brainstorming a session somewhere at a fair where you look at, okay, which challenges are there and what can be done to come together with a plan on how to do it. But also joint R&D could be a very nice activity, or trying to make partners to strengthen each other by collaboration and building this trust for future collaboration.
Yes, thank you. And Rainier?
I have not so much to add. I think what is key is about trust. I think if you look to all the companies and all the suppliers, there is a lot of information, technology, experience, lessons learned. And if we trust each other and help each other in sharing all that kind of information, then we can make a big step ahead. If we do it, keep it for our own, because of all kind of reasons, we have to do it together. So trust is very important, and we can share all of that.
Okay. Thank you, Rainier.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Terry.
Yeah,
before you do, sorry about that. Because we are running out of time here. Now, I would like to invite every one of you. You can give us one last minute, maybe takeaway. Also, maybe you can also use this one last minute to answer some of the other questions, any very exciting innovations that you see right now that can facilitate sustainability in our industry. And also, just like Daniel just said, how to share this kind of a very innovative technology with other people, how to forge this kind of a trustworthy relationship. 1 minute, everyone. Terry, you go first.
Sorry, yeah, I have talked a lot, but just want to answer Daniel's question and also echoes Peter's comment. I think I just want to reinforce that's how crucial for the global industry standard it will beneficial, because when we have the industry manufacturing sustainability manufacturing industry standard, that means the customer size can be more majority of can be have the similarity, so big enough for the supplier to jump into the investment for that market at all. So that's why I want to encourage, not necessarily to semi-standard, but in general, how standard can contribute. But of course, we did most of the manufacturing related standards. So I would encourage all the supplier, you can join the standard to make your spec can be universe, and also customer can buy the global standard to voice out your needs. So both ends can have the economic skill to make the sustainability tool to be sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. And Joy?
Okay. As Terry said, the Taiwan is the hotspot for IC or the semiconductor manufacturer in the world. We are a lot of the different kind of the company for the IC manufacturing or design and the test package. However, we're facing our resources shortage in the future. Especially, I told you the waste is increasing so much. And fortunately, the TSI cooperate with the Taiwan EPA to make a 7 kind of the recycle model. We hope all the Netherlands company can join the waste chemical or the solvent recycle model project is helpful to reduce waste products. It's very useful, I believe. We can break out the regulation limit, and the Taiwan EPA encourage the IC manufacturer can join the recycle project, the 7 kind of model. I hope you all can help us to reduce the waste. That's it.
Yes, thank you so much. And Daniel, anything that you would like to share with our audience before we go?
Well, if you're looking to me for a final comment, you're really in dangerous waters because I like to talk.
You have to watch the time too. Okay.
Okay.
Take it away.
I'd say the only final comment I'd make, Terry works for SEMI, which is a fantastic organization, and TSIA with Joy is a fantastic organization as well. And I think what the semiconductor industry does often is it likes to work within the family, so to speak. There are many industry associations. There's broad collaboration within the industry. Engineers in general like to talk to other engineers, and sometimes what's needed is the kind of what's going on now with the Netherlands office and the Taiwan. So you have some government input, and sometimes government can help with things like industry standards and trying to take inventions from here. And in some ways, it can be, I would say maybe like some kind of an award. If you've engineered some kind of some invention that helps everybody. Well, you have spent money on that invention, you have done this and you have done that, and there should be some kind of a reward for that, but also please share it. And I think government can have a really strong role in that kind of thing.
Thank you so much. Great job. And Peter?
So for a final comment, one of the technologies you asked for that could be revolutionary, I would say maybe photonics might be one of those technologies that can really reduce energy consumption, measurement, new sensing to optimize supply chains and to reduce waste use of energy, but also improve recycling capabilities. And well, on the collaboration side, it is a supply chain challenge, sustainability. Nobody can go at it alone. And this goes much further than a buyer-supplier relationship. It really requires building trust. It requires getting into the mud together to tackle this challenge. And hence, I would encourage everybody here who is interested in going into these collaborations, also with the NLOT and any further activities with the SEMI meeting, and do it together and make the world a better place and also make sustainable profits together.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rainier.
So I will last one, but I think it's not sustainable. It's not a project. It's a journey where we work. We have to cooperate and doing all that kind of things together. I think that's most important. We don't know where it ends, but we have to go ahead in the right direction in partnership and trust.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights. Before we go, maybe I can ask all of you to stay with us for 20 more seconds. Let's do another photo because we didn't have Joy for the first photo that we did earlier. Okay, so everyone look at the camera right now. 3, 2, 1. Yes, okay, 3, 2, 1. And I do agree with Daniel. We have to make it like 3 hours or 4 hours next time. Yeah, you heard us, Renee. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you to our speakers. Thank you to our participants for your participation today. And that's it for us today. Everyone can contribute. Everyone has a role to play. Thank you once again. Have a great day. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.